Today I want to show you how you can import a map into the Codex and get it set up to take full advantage of DrawSteel's elevation rules. So we're going to build a map from a creator called T-Hox. And I really like T-Hox's maps because they're great for tactical combat and they're great for elevation as well. And something that T-Hox does, which not a lot of creators do, is he shares his layered PSD files, which is amazing because it means that you can sort of take them apart and adapt them more easily into a VTT. But today we're importing just a regular JPEG file, so you could do this with a file from just about any creator. And the first thing we want to do is we want to line up the grid, so we just take some clicks to make sure that the grid is properly aligned. One more click down here, and we should be done. The first thing we want to do after importing a map is to just verify that the map is properly aligned. So we turn the Codex's grid on and we just mouse around the map and we can see that the Codex's grid that it's drawing on top, you can't even really see it properly because it's so well aligned with the map that the grid lines, that T-Hox has drawn onto the map. After I've done that, I like to add some characters onto the map just so that I can test the map out as I'm building it and have the characters move around and make sure everything is working just as I intend. The first thing I'm going to do is try to set up the map so that the Codex knows exactly where the water is in the map. And to do that, we go to the building tool and we select our water tile. And I'm going to use what's called the free draw tool to just draw around and show the Codex shapes that contain water. So I'm just going to be really lazy about this, and I'm going to trace along the coastline. And to start with, I'm going to ignore the islands and just make them all water. So I draw around here, and then at the end, I got my mouse messed up there, but that won't be a problem. And so I draw that, and just to make sure, I'm going to draw this region to make sure it knows that that's water, and then I'm going to just carve out this little inlet here to know that that's water too. Okay, and so we've done that. However, that makes all the islands water, so I want to erase the water from the island. So I turn on the erase, and then I just draw around the islands, and this will make the Codex know that the islands are not water. And of course, if anything is not quite as accurate as we want, we could always go back after and do some more touch-ups. After we've done that, we can verify that the Codex correctly knows the water using a couple of methods. We can have our character move around, and you'll see that already as this character approaches the water, the Codex has pathfinding, and it shows how far the character can move in a turn. And it knows the character can't swim as far as they can walk, so they can go all the way down here on ground, but on water it's not quite as far. And when they go out into the water, you'll see the little swimming icon. They'll start making sounds like they're in water and so on and so forth. You'll see that they're back on land here. Another useful little tool is the status bar, and this shows us the status of what we're pointing at, so we can see that it sees that this is water and this is not. So we can just verify all of that real quick. Okay, now that we've done that, we want to actually add heights to our map. And what I'm going to say for this map is that this water is what I would call sea level, so I'll call that height 0. And this looks like a pretty steep cliff, so I'm going to try saying that this is 4 squares above the water level. Depending on both the look of the map and also your desires for the tactics of the map you're planning, you could say this is only 3 high, you could say it's 2 high, you could say it's 5 high, whatever you want. And then this beach, I'm also going to say looks like it would technically be probably a little bit higher than the water, but I'm just going to say it's the same height as the water. I think over here, this looks like it's sort of a slope rather than a steep cliff face. So this is going to be probably our biggest challenge, is to make this a nice slope rather than just jutting out of the sea. So to do this, we go to the elevation editor, and I'm going to use the brush tool. And I'm going to say, I said that the islands were a height of 4, so I'm going to set a height of 4. And I'm going to use this brush, but I'm going to edit the brush for a moment. And I'm going to want to fade at the edges. And I'm going to turn this fade on, which gives me access to it over here. And I'm going to put a fade of 50%. And what that means is you can see it there on the brush that, like, if I went all the way down here, it's only like solid in the center and it fades all the way out. I'm gonna actually say a 40% fade, maybe even a little lower. And I'll show you what that does in a moment. So we'll start with this island, and I'm going to change the size of my brush. I can use the square bracket keys to do that. And I'm going to draw this island, and I think I want a smaller brush because I want it to be mostly 4 in height, but at the edges I want it to fade down to the ocean. And what I can do is I can hold Alt, and if you hold Alt, it shows you a flush top-down view, and only when you let go of Alt will it show you and you can see the sort of numbers you can of the different elevations. And then when I let go, we can verify that this looks pretty good. So this is this. I probably made it a little too sharp. We could even just do a Control Z a few times, and we could start from scratch. Let's have another crack at this, trying to make it look nice. So we're gonna. Fill in the center so it's all, so then yeah, this sort of juts out of the ocean, a nice high island, nice and flat on the top. It might be a little too flat on the top, but that might be good for the characters walking around on the top during actual gameplay. This one I'm going to similarly raise this island out of the sea. And this one, give it this nice look. Okay, and then get this island, and then this one doesn't look so high, so I'm just gonna these ones are more decorative than anything, but I'm just going to make them a little two squares high, and just they just jut out of the ocean. This one also. So we've done all of those, and then let's do this island over here. We're going back to a 4 size brush. This one is the most difficult to do well, of course, because it's got this tree on top, which T-Hawks probably didn't quite expect us to abuse his map quite this much. So then we will do this one. I think this one is also 4 high, but it's just a little jut out of the ocean. And then this little one here, I'm gonna say is 2 squares high. Okay, and that look that is looking pretty good, I think. I can see what it looks like. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with those. Oh, and I didn't do this one. So let's. Yeah, okay. So that looks pretty nice. And then I want to do this this mainland, but to do this, I'm going to start off by using the shape tool, and I said it would be 4 high. So I'm going to do that by taking the using the shape tool again, and I'm going to go ahead and do it like this all around the edges. Okay, so there we go. I've made that jar up out of the sea. It would be a lot nicer if it and we can see the characters moving about. It would be a lot nicer if if it was a lot smoother at the edges. So we make it smoother at the edges by again using the brush tool, and we still have our height of 4. And with this brush tool, I think I'm going to go to this brush, which has a much more fade at the edge, and I'm going to go along and just brush, and this will just gently raise up the edges as I go, and just make things a little nicer. And where you have more cliff face visible, you probably want to do more of a blend. So out here, I want to do like a lot of blending to take advantage of the cliff faces, make them look kind of nice. Similarly here. Okay, and so we can see that this is looking pretty nice. We have this cliff that's jutting out nice and above the ocean, ready for some nice tactical combat for people to get pushed down into the water, climb back up, everything like that. To do this, we want this to go up from 0. So I'm going to use the same kind of technique but in reverse, where I'm going to do a 0 brush, and I'm going to kind of gently make it sort of slope up a little bit, and try to do a gentlish kind of slope. So if I do that, so it kind of slopes up. It's a little bit, yeah. Oh, that was a mistake. So we sort of slope up, and that will be enough for a character to walk up instead of having to climb up. now that we've done this, we can test it out a little bit. We can see that if we get our character and we teleport our shadow down here, we'll see that the Codex does recognize climbing, for instance. So it says that this path requires climbing if it requires climbing, and it also calculates how far they can go, including the time taken to climb. So it does really restrict their movement. Once the character is here, it's not as easy for them to get up again. It's also it will of course do forced movement. So an easy way to test forced movement is if you hold down Alt while you're dragging, it'll do a forced movement. So if I shove this character down here, you'll see them fall. She actually falls prone. She takes some damage, fall damage, and so forth. So yeah, you can test all of that out. You can test falling into the water will be properly recognized. So, she didn't take any damage because it's water has a reduction on the amount of fall damage. So that's just a good initial test. And in combat, when you enter combat with enemies, of course, this kind of thing will be a lot of fun because you'll be able to do things like your players will be able to push the enemies. We'll do a push 3. We'll force it to do that, and so this will fall into the water. They have enough agility, and it's just water, so they don't fall prone. But they would if it was solid ground over here. This goblin has made the mistake of standing too near to the cliff edge. Again, falling down. Also, if you are already down the bottom somewhere and you shove somebody, then they will shove into, it will recognize the cliff face. So this will do damage because they got shoved into the wall. And hey, that was enough to kill them. So with all that done, this should be set up for some pretty fun tactical combat. You can also do things like these trees. I could probably add a little bit of elevation to them if I wanted, probably just for aesthetic purposes. And for gameplay purposes, I could choose to make maybe the trees or maybe these bushes similar to how I did water. I could do difficult terrain. So you could just use a tool to draw some difficult terrain here, and then the difficult terrain rules would also apply. So hopefully this gives you a good overview of how you can use of how you can use the Codex to set a map up and get going, running some nice tactical combat with the elevations all calculated for you. One more thing before we go is that in the settings, you can control the amount of parallax. So I have normal parallax. So when you scroll around the map, you'll see that you can see the islands all jutting out of the sea and everything. You might decide that you just want the parallax to be like suggestive, but you don't really love how much it moves. So you can change the parallax to slight. And that means that the parallax is now very subtle, almost that you can't notice it at all. It is still nice to have because especially if a character gets shoved, for instance, you can still see that you just get that little bit of movement. While with the option to turn the parallax off entirely, which you can do, though I don't recommend this probably. This will recognize the heights. And so you can see this character is 4 squares high, but there's no parallax at all. So it's just a top-down view. And if you shove them off, they will fall. But you don't really see that they're falling because there's no parallax. So there's no other cues to show that they're actually falling. And if you really want to show off the parallax, and I usually only do this just to sort of emphasize when I'm demonstrating it, you can make pronounced parallax, and that will make the parallax really super pronounced. But and you can see these really jutting out of the ocean. But when you do this sort of jankiness at the edges becomes a little too much in my view, and it's just unnecessarily much. But you can do it just to understand how the parallax works and so forth. So thank you for watching. I hope that you'll build a map in Draw Steel soon.